Hello, this is your tutorial for the Canon Powershot SX730 HS cameras. These new cameras are pretty clever, so what I'm going to show you to do first is just how to shoot in auto mode, because there's a good chance that you will be able to take all of the photos you need simply having it set on auto. So the first thing we're going to do is, when we're using the camera, use the safety strap. As you can see, these cameras are quite small. They fit in your pocket, which is great, but they're easy to handle, but for that extra sense of security, it's worthwhile to put that little strap around your wrist when you are shooting. The first thing you're going to do is, on the top of the camera, press the on-off button. The lens then will pop out, and this dial that is on the top of the camera, you will switch it until it lands on auto mode. While I'm doing this, there's actually a display on the back viewing screen that says exactly what I'm doing as well. So if you can't see, or are looking through the screen instead, when you switch that dial, you'll be seeing your options change on the back. And then to take your picture, all you would do is simply hold the shutter button down halfway. You'll hear a beep. That means it's in focus. You'll press it the rest of the way, and there you go, you have your photo. Right away, it's going to display on the back of the camera. What you're seeing in the viewfinder before you even take the picture is exactly what your picture is going to look like. So if you're looking in the viewfinder and it looks really way too bright or way too dark and it's set on auto, well, we're going to have to switch to manual mode to be able to fix those problems. Now, in your viewfinder, if you're looking at the back and you're trying to take your picture and you can already see it's way too bright, we're going to have to adjust that. So the first thing you'll do is go to the dial on the top. You will turn the dial until it gets to the M, which stands for manual mode. Then I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see better. Around the screen are all the options that we have selected. The first thing you're going to do is, on this little wheel, if you press the four corners, those are all actually buttons as well. So we're going to press this one on the side closest to the screen, which would be your left, my right. And so we'll press that one time, and up pops our little macro option. We're going to press the button in the center of the wheel to select macro. And that's going to allow you to take a better focused picture when you're quite close to the subject, like you guys will be. Next, we're going to look at the settings on the bottom. What we're going to set for a protocol is that when you start out shooting, that you start out with the same set of base numbers every time, so that there's really minimal adjustment in either way that you're going to have to do to get the perfect shot. So along the bottom of the screen, what our numbers should read are 1/1000th, f6.3, and ISO 400. I can see by looking at this right now, it's not where it's set up as. So we're going to switch that. Now, keep in mind, even though you can see all these numbers around the screen, when you're actually out in the field, you'll still be seeing what you're taking a picture of. The screen is really dark right now because it's pointing really close to this black tabletop, so that's why it's so dark in the center. But when you're using it, you're going to still see what you're taking a picture of. So to be able to make our selections, first we're going to set our base numbers. We're going to press up on the little wheel here until there's little green brackets around the first set of the numbers. Right now it says 1/500th. Well, it should be 1/1000th because generally you guys are going to be shooting on a pretty clear sunny day. So we're going to move this wheel until it says 1/1000. Now when you're moving this wheel, you'll be able to see your picture change in the viewing screen. So if you are on your way to 1/1000 and at 1/800 it looked great, you can stop there. So just to set, to our base numbers, I'm going to keep going to 1/1000th. And then our middle number is f6.3. It is where it should be. If it wasn't, we would press this little part of the circle one more time in the up direction to put our little green brackets around that number. And then again, we just use the wheel to change those numbers. But we always want it sitting on f6.3. Then the last number, the ISO 800, is actually reached another way. This very middle button is called Func Set. So we're going to press that And once, if your display is off, you'll press it twice to get this side menu. If your display was already on, you just have to press it the one time. And we're going to scroll up and down this menu using the wheel until we get to the ISO. This one says ISO 800 right now. So we're going to click the little button in the center of the wheel, and that brings us to the adjustment menu. We'll scroll up and down. Keep in mind the whole time you're doing this, you can see your picture changing on the screen. We're going to put that to ISO 400. Press the button in the middle of the circle to select. So we're at our base numbers. I picked these base numbers because when I took this camera outside on a pretty clear, sunny Alberta day, these were the settings that I needed to get good pictures. Now, the biggest factor is going to be light and shadow. So you might have one set of settings that has an excellent picture for 3 out of the 4 shots you need, but you might need to go back in here again if you end up in a lot of shadow or in a really bright situation to be able to get that last picture to match the other 3. So now that we have these numbers set where we want to, the difference in the numbers is this. So first let's look at the first set of numbers, 1/1000. Well, that's how fast your shutter is opening and closing. So if you've got a high number in here like 1/1000, 1/1250, 1/2000, that means it's shutting really quickly. So if it's a really bright sunny day, it's not letting in a ton of light because there is so much light. So that means that you're going to be able to take that picture that was way too bright to look at. You're going to be able to manage that with these higher numbers and bring it down to a picture that looks good. So these numbers keep going up. On the flip side, if your picture was looking a little dark, you would want to make this number smaller by going in the other direction, but you wouldn't want to get a number smaller than 1/400. And that's because the shutter, letting in all that light, is open longer. Any little bit of motion, a shaky hand, a swingy basket, a windy day, is going to make that picture blurry. So you can bring that number down to 1/400, but you don't want to go to a smaller number than that. Now on the flip side, if it's pretty dark out and you found that you have brought that shutter speed down to 1/400 and you don't want to go any smaller than that because you don't want the blurry picture, we're going to have to adjust the ISO. So that means that we would press that Func Set button to get our side menu. We would go into the ISO. We'd press the button to get into the menu where we can adjust it, and we would go one stop bigger. So the bigger the number means the bigger the light. So our dark picture is going to be a lot brighter. And so before you select, you can actually see in the screen, maybe 1/800 isn't going to cut it. I can't imagine a condition unless it was really early morning that you might need to go higher than that. But keep in mind, the same way that a really slow shutter is going to make a blurry picture, these really high numbers in the ISO, like the 1600 and the 3200, are going to look pretty grainy. And so we don't want that because that's more of a Sports Illustrated, sports action shot look where it's a lot of grain in the picture. We need really sharp pictures of these, so we're going to avoid going to an ISO that's a bigger number than 1/800. So we've chosen the 1/800 by pressing the center button, and now we're looking at the viewfinder and we're like, okay, well, now it's too bright. So we're trying to find this happy medium. We left our shutter at 1/400. We can go back by just pressing that up arrow of the wheel till the brackets are around that number again, and we're just going to increase that again until it gets to what we want. There's a little protocol card that will be with these cameras showing you which shots you need to get. If your picture and your screen looks like that picture, you know that you've got the shot. So that's where you want to settle on. All right, so now there are some other features to this camera that are going to come in handy. One of those being on the back here, this viewing screen is actually a tilt screen. So if it's a sunny day and you're having a hard time seeing in the screen what you're taking a picture of, you can change the angle of that to help deflect the light so that you'll be able to have a better idea of what your picture looks like. Also, if you have to change the angle of the camera to something that's a bit more awkward, you can open this right up so that even if you're turning the camera, you can still see what you're getting a shot of. And that just pops in and out by using your finger, and then you just want to make sure that it's closed down all the way. There is a flash on this camera. I don't recommend using it in this situation. As soon as you get into using the flash, there's quite a bit of micromanaging for the manual settings to be able to get the right shot. It's a lot of light at close proximity to the metal that you are shooting, and that's going to have a lot of reflection. The flash is here on the side, and if you press that button, it pops up, and then you just push it back down into its spot when you are finished with it. But again, it might seem a simple option, but it's actually more complicated than just following the instructions for the manual shooting. And when you're all finished with your camera, you would make sure to shut it off to preserve that battery power. And also by shutting it off, it does protect the lens because this protective shutter will close over top of it. And then you would put it away in your case, which has a nice long strap, as well as clips, and also a belt loop, so it's easy to keep secure. You can refer back to this video at any time if you need to do troubleshooting in the field or if you just need a refresher. But I recommend maybe watching this more than once to get those directions to really stick. And more than anything, practice makes perfect. So the more you use this camera, the better you'll get with it. Thanks so much for watching.